Hey, how's it going, and welcome to another crack-headed video. Alright, so not too long ago, in a tired stupor, I asked you guys, who y'all think wins? Demi-fiend, who has access to all of the Magatama, or 1,000 Morganas? Originally, I had no plans to, really do a video about this, but I was kind of surprised to see that 7,000 people voted on this, and there were 177 comments on that one post. So I figured it'd be fun to talk about. Obviously, this isn't anything particularly serious. I'm not a fucking power scaler, pretty much just for fun, and I figured this would be kind of an interesting matchup because it gets into a lot of, really weird sort of topics when it comes to, figuring out how strong characters are. You kind of realize pretty quickly that, pretty much the entire Megami Tensei series, it's kind of a nightmare to have, versus battles with these characters. But I'll kind of elaborate on that in a bit. So let's talk about our contestants here. It's probably easier to talk about Morgana first. So for this, we are using, Morgana at the end of Royal. We are giving him Diego. I'm trying to make this as fair as possible by using more or less, the strongest appearance of these characters in their respective games. So yeah, we're going with Royal Morgana in the third semester when he has Diego. I also added that Lady An is there cheering for the Morgana horde. This was more or less a joke, but so I guess I should clarify, if they're fighting in a tournament of power arena, An is on the bleachers just watching. She has no real influence over the fight, she's kind of just there. Don't ask me how or why there's 1,000 Morganas, cognition, yeah. The metaverse works in very strange ways, so I think when it comes to Morgana, and kind of just the Phantom Thieves in general, the Phantom Thieves are actually really underrated, because they're actually really dangerous. The two sort of most dangerous entities the Phantom Thieves have defeated are Yaldabaoth and Maruki. Yaldabaoth being an entity who is going to merge together the real world and the cognitive world. And then there's Maruki, who has the power of actualization, which is probably just it's the most dumb ability in the Persona series. Just the ability to think of things and kind of make it happen. At some point, I'll probably do a video just talking about how dumb and powerful Maruki is, because just because I don't think a lot of people quite get how absolutely bonkers Maruki is. So yeah, the Phantom Thieves are crazy. I don't think they quite compare to some of the big boys of SMT in particular, you know, your Flynn's, your Nanashis, your Alephs, because those guys are just on a completely different level, but yeah, unless you get into stuff like the Universe Arcana, I would say that the Persona 5 cast is probably the most powerful, group of Persona users. And Morgana especially has, a lot of abilities that are extremely useful for this type of fight. Deadass, in terms of utility, not counting, Joker, because he kind of cheats, but Morgana probably has the most utility out of all the Phantom Thieves. Morgana's probably most well known as being, the Wind Mage of the Phantom Thieves. He has access to all of the Garu spells, but he's also the best healer of the group. He learns, Meteorahan, he learns Samurai Karm, and of course he learns the very powerful Salvation. So yeah, if you were going to pick one Phantom Thief to kind of be your support buddy, you would probably go with Morgana. This probably won't matter, but Morgana can also turn into a car, so if things are going badly and you need to GTFO, then Morgana can just turn into a car and book it. Alright, so now we get to have some fun and talk about Demi-fiend. I think Demi-fiend is probably the best example of why trying to do these kinds of versus battles with Megami Tensei characters is a pain in the ass. Because Demi-fiend is basically the adult version of if you were ever a kid playing with other kids, you would be well, I'm the strongest guy ever, and I can blow up the whole universe, and nothing ever hurts me ever, and nothing you do will ever work, and I can get past any defense. That's the Demi-fiend. The Demi-fiend is kind of just that character, but that kind of comes with the caveat that this is specifically Demi-fiend who's rigged up with, all of the Magatama that you have access to. For anybody who hasn't played Nocturne, the Magatama is, what Demi-fiend uses to kind of change his attributes and, learn new attacks. They're these nasty bug things he swallows. It's pretty metal. So for this, we're specifically using the Masakato's Magatama, which gives him fun resistances such as, immunity to physical, magical, expel, death, and ailments. And if you want to be really cheeky about it, you can also give him repel skills. So not only does it not work on him, but he'll just shoot it back at you. So as you can see, this is where the nightmare begins. It's just trying to figure out, okay, what works on the Demi-fiend? In-game, the only thing that 100% definitively does hurt him is almighty attacks. And beyond that, it's nope, GG, doesn't work. You can't punch the dude. You punch him, he just, doesn't feel anything. In terms of attacks, Demi-fiend has, every attack. Like, he can learn pretty much anything he wants, any almighty attack just about. He can learn any kind of buff, he can learn, like, any healing spell. So yeah, that's really the thing about, like, beyond just the Demi-fiend, kind of just Megami Tensei characters in general, is that they're so customizable and so, like, it's so easy to break them within their own system. It makes taking them and having them fight other characters into this nightmare. Like, this is a problem you'll run into with Demi-fiend and Flynn and, like, even the Joker and Persona 3 protagonists. I'm sure Nahobino in SMT5 is gonna be the same way. Like, it's really not quite the same as trying to figure out, like, okay, I don't know, like, Goku versus whoever. Like, if you're using Goku, you can't sit there and say, okay, this is Goku, but he has access to every attack, and he can't be hurt by anything. You know, people would be like, shut the fuck up, that doesn't make any sense. But, like, when it comes to Megami Tensei characters, you kinda can unironically roll up and be like, okay, this is Demi-fiend, but he knows every attack and he cannot be hurt, GG. But Demi-fiend also has a lot of signature attacks that aren't really shared by, like, any other demons or kind of entities in the series. Probably his most iconic attack is Freikugel, which is just this big fuck-off, like, energy beam he shoots. Most of his attacks are pretty much just, like, lasers and energy beams. They're pretty much all classified as almighty. I think there's a couple that count as physical, but the majority of them are almighty. And then you combine that with his ability to learn Pierce, which, like, allows him to go through enemies' resistances, at least for physical attacks, but, you know, then that gets into a whole extra argument about, like, this kind of, like, unstoppable force versus immovable object kind of stuff. Because it's like, alright, I'll just invent a character. Say it's Joe Barrier. And Joe Barrier's power is that he can make a barrier that nothing can get past. Now I have the Demi-fiend, who has Pierce, which allows him to bypass anything. Then it's like, well, fuck me, dude. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, Demi-fiend, very, very stupid character. Just like, you know, you pop him into any kind of like versus battle or fight or whatever, it's like, oh shit. Okay, so on to the actual fight itself. One Demi-fiend versus 1,000 Morganas. And based on the results from the poll, like 43% of you said the Morganas would win, 57% said the one Demi-fiend would win. So I'm pretty much going to run through, like, win conditions for each character. Basically how I think they end up on top in this situation. And I know I just went on this whole tirade about how dumb the Demi-fiend is and how unbeatable he is. So this might rock your brain a little bit, but I think the 1,000 Morganas are the favored to win in this. So let's start by talking about Demi-fiend's kind of path to win here. I think the Demi-fiend takes it if he goes absolutely bonkers insane and wipes out every Morgana with extreme prejudice. Because here's the deal, and I didn't really think about this when I, like, asked the question, because it was kind of just like a random thing, but out of all the Phantom Thieves, with the exception of Joker, the Morganas work best, like, fighting alongside themselves. That's such a bizarre statement, but, like, so for example, let's say we're doing a different fight. Instead, we're doing the Demi-fiend versus 1,000 Ryujis. I think the Demi-fiend claps the 1,000 Ryujis because they have no, like, Ryuji doesn't have any, like, self-sustainability. He has no healing skills, and he also doesn't have a way to revive his allies, whereas Morgana does. Like, literally one Morgana, if there's one Morgana left, he could theoretically revive the entire rest of them. Like, literally, all it takes is one Morgana using salvation, and all the rest of the Morganas are fine. So I think that really is the Demi-fiend's best course of action, is to just go insane and wipe out all the Morganas as fast as possible. Just use fucking Zero's beat and get rid of all of them, but like, I don't think you quite understand how much 1,000 is. Like, imagine having to, like, shake the hands of 10 people. That's a lot, right? Now imagine doing that 10 times over. And then imagine doing that an extra 10 times over. That's how many fucking Morganas there are. There's 1,000 Morganas. So even if, like, let's say he gets off a really good one, he kills 500 Morganas, just wiped him out. He's still got another 500 left to go, who can then, like, revive the other Morganas and, like, fully heal them. So if the Demi-fiend can manage to, like, just wipe all of them out or just outlast them, that is also a win condition if he can just, like, keep fighting until they, like, exhaust all of their SP and are just all dead. Because assuming we are kind of playing by, like, the sort of rules of the game itself, then these characters do have SP, they do have like, you know, HP. That's another thing to consider is like, it does cost Demi-fiend's like stamina and health to use some of his more deadly attacks. Like Freikugel ain't free. He has to like pay up to use that shit. So yeah, assuming Demi-fiend, he just loses his mind. He's bloodlusted. He wants to get this over with as quickly as possible. The Morganas are all flustered and spooked. Like, I think he can win it. So the win condition for the Morganas is a little bit more weird. I think you have to get a little bit more creative when it comes to Morgana. The biggest conundrum when fighting the Demi-fiend is obviously the fact that nothing hurts the guy. But Morgana actually has a lot of really roundabout ways to like win this fight. First of all, one thing that the Demi-fiend is not immune to are debuffs. A debuff will affect pretty much anything. So if all of the Morganas just use Masukanda on him, lower his agility, he can't really dodge stuff, he can't aim so good anymore, suddenly, like, this is a fight. And obviously the Demi-fiend can go and just like rebuff himself, but you gotta remember, this is 1,000 Morganas. You can't hit shit after getting hit by like 3 Masukandas, let alone 1,000. Imagine basically like, you know how at the beginning of the Matador fight, he uses the red capote and Demi-fiend can't hit shit? Imagine that, but there's 1,000 like Matadors. Another trick that Morgana has up his sleeve is Windbreak. Yeah, I know, I spent all that time saying like, oh yeah, the Demi-fiend, nothing can hurt him. But also Morgana has the ability to like negate the wind resistance. So the Morganas could just use Windbreak and then bombard him with Garudine, and he'll probably die. And I think the Morganas have a third possible way to win, but this gets into really weird territory. So basically in Nocturne, gun skills don't exist. Everything is classified as a physical attack, and obviously Demi-fiend, he like negates the physical attacks, right? Okay, so riddle me this. Does the Demi-fiend get hurt by gun attacks? The common sense answer is probably like, yeah, guns would probably, like, in the context of Nocturne, count as physical skills. Therefore, it wouldn't hurt him. But I think you can also make the argument that, like, since gun skills don't exist in Nocturne, there's no way to confirm nor deny that it would hurt him. It's kind of like asking, like, would nuclear skills from Persona 5 hurt the Demi-fiend? It's like, shit, dude, I don't know. There's no way to prove or disprove it. But here's the kicker, is that in SMT4 Apocalypse, in the Messiahs of the Diamond Realm DLC, where you get to play as, like, Demi-fiend and, like, all the SMT protagonists, Demi-fiend very specifically nullifies every element in that game except for gun. Gun is the only shit that will hurt the Demi-fiend. See, this kind of stuff I think is the true essence of why, like, trying to do versus battles with these Megami Tensei characters is such a pain in the ass. Because now we've just started a new debate about like, okay, this is the Demi-fiend in like a different game. Does this count? Is this just like meant to be kind of an homage to Nocturne and the fact that gun skills don't exist? Is this just something that's done to like balance the game to make Demi-fiend like literally not invincible? So yeah, this really is something that just like depends on your own subjective kind of like interpretation and I guess how much you're willing to think about something this stupid. Because like you can definitely make the argument that no, guns would not hurt the Demi-fiend because guns like are probably lumped in with physical stuff. But you can just as easily make the argument that's like, okay, in SMT4 Apocalypse, like guns do hurt him. So depending on which, like, philosophy you side with, you can totally make the argument that Morgana could kill the Demi-fiend by shooting him over and over and over again with his little slingshot. Imagine just, like, 1,000 Morganas just pelting him with little rubber balls, and the Demi-fiend fucking dying. So I'm going to count that one as, like, a wild card. If you wanted to count, then sure. If not, I also understand. So yeah, I basically think Morgana has 2.5 ways to win. Windbreak into Garudine probably kills him. If he can get off like debuffs, then Morgana's probably just incapable of getting hit. And if you are politically aligned with the belief that the Demi-fiend can get hurt by guns, then he definitely wins. I think I probably gave too many Morganas. like it was just a random number I picked, but like, obviously one Morgana versus the Demi-fiend is a fucking slap. Like, the Demi-fiend would eliminate one Morgana. I think that's also the case for 10 Morganas, and honestly, probably 100 Morganas. But I feel like once you get past that point, it's like, oh man, that's a lot of Morganas. And like I said, this is pretty much like a Morgana exclusive problem, because like, let's say we just have, I don't know, Yusuke, my beloved, is fighting instead. There's 1,000 Yusukes. If a Yusuke dies, there's no way to replace them. Whereas these Morganas can just revive and like heal themselves like forever. So yeah, that's pretty much how I think this would go. Just like, The Morganas have so many tricks up their sleeve and they're so self-sustaining. At first glance, it's like, yeah, it's the fucking Demi-fiend, like nothing works against him, but Morgana's a pretty sneaky fucker, like he's got windbreak, dude. But yeah, let's check out some comments from you guys. So Meggy Dolodine says, Demi-fiend does an AoE move, misses all of them, loses all press turns, and gets crit by every Morgana. Yeah, similar to kind of what I was talking about, it's another one of those things where like, it depends on how literal you want to get with like the in-game mechanics. This is kind of just a video game problem when it comes to any kind of versus battle. It's just how much do you take into account the mechanics of the game? Like, do press turns exist in this theoretical battle we're doing? If one of the characters misses, do they just fall on their ass? Like, if the Demi-fiend gets knocked down, like, the Morganas could theoretically do an all-out attack. That is something that's on the table. Isaiah Swaim says, all I can think about is that one Doom cover art, but replace Doom with the Demi-fiend and the demons with Morganas. Just Hangman says, the idea of Demi-fiend Freikugeling an entire Morgana horde is hilarious. I wonder how, like, big he can make the Freikugels, because, like, in the actual game itself, it seems like it's pretty thin, but I wonder if he can, like, make it larger, like a fucking Kamehameha or something. That's theoretically something he could maybe do, is just, like, make a Freikugel that's so fucking big the Morganas can't dodge it. But who knows, really. Wolf397 says, the sheer simp energy that radiates from one Morgana is powerful enough, but multiply that by 1,000, and they can literally take down every god in Mega 10. Pig Ninjas says, damn dude, I was siding with the Demi-fiend as he is extremely overpowered, especially with the Magatama nulling Morgana shit. But after seeing Lady An, I realized the Demi-fiend didn't stand a single chance. Never underestimate the power of a simp. Yeah, see, motivation plays a big factor in all of this. Like, Demi-fiend probably doesn't give too much of a shit. He seems like a pretty whatever kind of dude, but like, the 1,000 Morganas are highly motivated. Like, this isn't just some random encounter for them. This is, like, the encounter. Lady An is literally watching. Navi says, that sounds like 1,000 showtimes with An, so Morganas will win with almighty damage. Yeah, like I said, the whole, like, Lady An thing is mostly a joke, but I think you could maybe make the argument that Morgana could do, like, a showtime if An is, like, around. But she's not actually a combatant in this. I'm pretty sure that, like, she would need to physically participate for the showtime to happen. So yeah, unfortunately, the showtime strat is not applicable, but if it were, that would definitely be a way that, like, Morgana could win. Panda Ace says, this match with outside help is unfair. We need to give Demi-fiend his waifu Super Pixie. Oh man, I didn't even consider, like, demons getting involved. Yeah, I think if Demi-fiend has a stock of demons, then he wins, but, like, I feel like that's kind of cheating, because that's, like, an external element. The Demi-fiend doesn't just come with the demons, he has to, like, get those. Whereas for Morgana, like, Diego is an inherent part of, like, his soul. But if we give the Demi-fiend, you know, full stock of demons, kind of like the way you fight him in, like, Digital Devil Saga, then yeah, that's, it's like, what the fuck's Morgana gonna do? But yeah, I think this is, like, a fun mental exercise. It's always interesting, kind of like, trying to break down these characters because they're just so dumb. Because, like, basically every way that Morgana wins is, like, really gameplay dependent. Like, yeah, he debuffs him. Like, that's a very gameplay-y sort of element. Or, like, do guns hurt him? Like, that's another big gameplay kind of discussion. But yeah, I might end up doing some more of these in the future. Let me know if there's any particular characters you would like me to kind of break down and talk about. Marky especially is definitely a character I'd like to talk about because, man, Marky is really dumb. But yeah, that has been the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.